Welcome back to Ronnie's Roasted Reviews. Today I've got a little movie to talk about called If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Last episode I reviewed A$AP Rocky's newest album, and as it just so happens to be, this movie stars that very same man in a supporting role. Isn't that fun? Well, this review doesn't dwell on him at all, so who really cares? But it's kinda neat. No, this movie is really all about Rose Byrne in a career stand-up performance, which has earned her a Best Actress nomination at the Oscars. This movie follows a therapist juggling the many stresses of her life. She has a sick child who sleeps with an IV tube in her belly, her husband or ex-husband is never around, her apartment ceiling collapses so she has to live in a motel for the time being, she's in love with her therapist colleague, one of her patients goes missing, nothing seems to go her way, and chaos ensues. I thought this was just an intense drama or something. I didn't know I was watching a full-on psychological horror going into this. This is literally the female version of Eraserhead. The biggest difference would be that this looks at a parent much further into parenthood, but in many ways this is like a modern version of Eraserhead. The themes of parenthood and the fear of parenthood. Both movies take a similarly horrifying approach to parenthood, and the bold choice to horrorify a child. It's really crucial to the story that we understand her feelings of suffocation in parenthood. This had that same feeling of claustrophobia and suffocation, and need for escape. Almost every scene gives you that intense looming feeling of wanting to run away. A lot of that comes from the brilliant cinematography. The choice to only show the child's face at the very end of the movie was super impactful. They used the same technique for her husband, who is, up until the last 10 minutes, only heard through shouting matches over the phone. This movie implores every possible technique it can to make us empathize and live in the head of the protagonist. The framing and frequent close-up shots of Linda's face keeps us constantly forced to confront the stress of her life. Another big theme and similarity to Eraserhead is that feeling that you infected your child or that something went wrong with your child's development because of you. This movie does this very directly, with Linda even flat out yelling it at us. She very heavily blames herself for the physical health issues that plague her daughter, and she doesn't hide it. It also manifests through more subliminal aspects. This movie is very, very surreal at times, and much of this isn't meant to be taken literally. The hole in the ceiling is very much connected to the daughter and the hole/tube in her stomach. Spoiler alert, the moment Linda pulls the tube out of her daughter lines up with the hole in the ceiling being patched up. I saw this moment as Linda trying to pull what she sees as her burdensome nature out of her daughter. She's trying to escape motherhood by taking the easy way out. She needs an immediate fix. She needs an end to these awful feelings. She needs the hole to go away. Of course, it's not that easy, and it isn't supposed to be. When her husband comes back to check on their daughter, he's horrified. Whether he's horrified by the fact that the tube is gone or something else, we don't find out. Either way, upon this discovery, Linda sprints off to the ocean and runs headfirst into crashing waves, the feeling of suffocation and escape manifesting. This directly mirrors a patient of hers from a few scenes ago who had just disappeared. She showed up suddenly, talking to Linda in very subliminal and strange sentences about how she thought she understood before running to the ocean. This was about the part in the movie where I started to really get what was going on and how this patient is a direct mirror of Linda in so many ways. Linda wakes up on the beach to see her daughter, where we first see her face, and she promises to be better from now on. This ending is very open-ended, especially in tone. You may see this as a happy ending and a moment of true change, or an empty promise. Either way, I love the ending and all that leads up to it, which wouldn't be the same without the next point I'm talking about, which is the sound design. This movie's sound blew me away. The child actress did really great, and her voice was captured perfectly for what this movie was going for. Much of this movie is spent forcing you to sit in stressful cacophonies. Children crying, machines beeping, phones ringing. The claustrophobic camera work and the immersive sound design work together so well to put you in Linda's shoes and make you really stew with her. There's a lot of dissociation in this movie, another manifestation of Linda's escapism, and a lot of it is communicated through muffled and watery sound design and dreamy audio. We often hear distant scenes of her daughter undergoing procedure and other stressful moments she's had with her daughter, being pushed back and forth in her mind. Everything that we hear and see involving the inception of this condition and of the child itself clearly weighs heavily on Linda. and those thoughts resurfacing through this dissociation really spells it out. Aside from some incredible ambience and uncomfortable background hummings, there is very little music. We're really just going through a day in this stressed and exhausted mom's life, and all the abstractions and surrealism that comes with depicting that experience. So the strange sound design and minimal music was only fitting. Before wrapping this up, I want to also mention that this movie was very funny, believe it or not. There's an entire scene with a hamster that was so insane and very funny for me, largely for how goofy the hamster puppet looked, and the over-the-top way it met its end. Almost every scene with Conan O'Brien was quite funny. I had no idea he was in the cast. The scene with Linda stopping her foot in his door is especially funny to me. There's also a scene where he's explaining to her how he used to skin rats in a science class, and he makes this whole speech, and she's clearly listening intently because she's in love with him, and the whole scenario is so absurd, and I found it super funny. A$AP Rocky was also in this movie a lot, and he had a lot of small moments of humor. His coworker was so over-the-top mean, it made for some really funny interactions. This also relates to my only real criticism of this movie. There's a few Gen Z characters that felt really caricature-ish and over-the-top, notably one of Linda's patients. Now, I could see this as representing Linda's disconnection from her daughter and the youth in general, but I'm not sure if that was the intent. Either way, it says a lot about this movie that my only real complaint is barely a complaint. Anyways, to my point about the comedy, so much of this movie's drive revolves around watching this lady just being so fed up with her life, and the demands and expectations of her life. It serves some wildly intense and claustrophobia while also being a source for comedy. It honestly just works on every single level. There's still so much I could probably discover about this movie. I don't really get Conan's rat monologue. I don't understand the breathing technique subplot. I just don't feel like I've even scratched the surface of this movie, and yet I have so much to say. It's just spilling out. It's so good that I just need to spew all my thoughts. And the fact that I'm so passionate about trying to understand this movie and dissect it is a very good sign, and I'm easily giving this movie a 9 out of 10. It's now my 4th favorite movie from 2025, and I highly recommend it if you could handle some gross stuff. If you liked Eraserhead, you'll probably enjoy this. And that's about it for today. Check out Review Ronny on Instagram and YouTube for info and archives of the show. And before I let you listeners go, it's time for Ronny's Joke of the Week. Red flowers are stupid. Call that a rose burn. See you next time on Ronny's Roosevelt Reviews.
Hey, Ronny. Ronny?
Good reviews?
Fabulous reviews.
This is Ronny. Make it good.
So Ronny could have been a
Reviewer.
It's Ronny, all right.
Ronny?
Reviews.
Fabulous reviews.
And this is the best review we got.